All right, guys, gals, and non-binary pals, welcome to the second match of the first day of the New Zealand Tertiary Ultimate Championships here in beautiful and increasingly sunny Kirikiriroa, Hamilton. My name, as always, is Blair Monroe. I'm joined in the booth by my good friend Kisa Valenti, and we are your eyes and ears on the ground to provide context and commentary for this exciting matchup. Now, Kisa, what can you tell us about what's about to happen in front of us?
Well, we've got a lovely day for Frisbee out here. Weather's nice, partly overcast. That actually makes a huge difference on the field. You don't have sun shining in your eyes. There's a slight breeze going from the left side of your screen to the right, which is going to affect gameplay. It's going to be a little bit more difficult to work it left ways up the field on account of that wind, and we'll see how the teams decide to deal with that slight weather today.
Absolutely. So we've got the University of Canterbury Ultimate Club Honey Badgers to come out on defense with the disc. So they'll be pulling into the wind, as you said, Kisa, so we might not see as much travel as they might like, but the pull goes quite long anyway. Fielded early by Alex Dio, working with Kent Wilcock in the handler space for the Waikato side.
Looks like we're seeing a match defense coming from Canterbury, nice and tight.
Blake Hanna puts up a big forehand, intercepted by the Honey Badgers early, so a quick break opportunity here. But the pendulum of Ultimate swings both ways. It goes just outside the hands of the intended receiver, Paige Hansen. Kent Wilcock to pick up on the near sideline, just inside the red zone.
What's going to be really important here is that he doesn't get end zone fever, try to smash it in. Really smart dump there, looking for a swing option. Little risky throw right back to the sideline.
Blake Hanna puts up the forehand. Alex Dio with the score. Great first point there by Waikato. A nice, not as clean as they'd like, but still a great hold to put them on the board. 1-0 over the Honey Badgers. That is exactly what the University of Waikato side need. The hosts of our tournament, proudly supported by University Tertiary Sport New Zealand and the team here at Ulti TV. Remember, if you like what you see, don't be afraid to...
The gender rules in Frisbee. So we start off with male majority matchups and trade off every 2 points. We used to have a rule that was every pulling team would get to decide, or sorry, rather offensive team would get to decide. But now we've switched into a 1-2-2-2 situation. Try to get some more equity on the field. A huge pull up to the end zone. Oh, and despite her best efforts, we're not able to come down with that one.
Great throw by Luke Ra, but it comes in a bit low for the Honey Badgers to pick up. So Waikato with another opportunity here. This time they'll be working back upwind, so into the wind, and they've got the full length of the field ahead of them. Still a match defense from the Canterbury side. Kieran McDonald with a nice undercut, but gets looked off. Straight through to Aria Cowley. Finds Kieran McDonald, who works the disc back towards the center despite a great bid from the Canterbury defense. It's not quite enough. Kieran McDonald puts a long shot up, a huge amount of chase underneath. Dio goes up for it, but Raab is too big, generating a turn.
And that's a tough throw in the upwind space. The disc is going to float and sit for quite a long time, allowing your defenders to catch up, and that's why we saw that disc going into sextuple coverage.
So a huge amount of crowd underneath that disc. It looks like we're going to see the Canterbury side come down in a vertical stack. You can see there are 5 players aligned in a straight line in the middle of the field. That creates 2 wide channels on the near and far sidelines for them to attack. We're seeing great deep cut. But Kieran McDonald is able to get a tip to the disc and catch it, keeping it in hands. He finds Alex Dio in the red zone. Kieran McDonald for a score.
Oh, what a break for Waikato. Upwind on a point where they started off on defense. This is huge for them. Really strong start to the game.
Absolutely. Coming off a great hold in the first point and then a quick break upwind to put them 2 above the Honey Badgers. A very strong side, historically very competitive in the University, in the Tertiary Ultimate Championships. So this is a great start for the Waikato side. A little bit slow to build up that momentum. We know there are some strong players for the Honey Badgers. Some players with some really lot of club level experience and some national representation. Just a little bit slow to gel together, maybe struggling to adapt to the conditions a bit. But we are a scant 6.5 minutes in to our 75-minute game, first to 13. So we'll take half when the first team reaches a score of 7. But until then, we've just got to keep playing out these points and see what happens. So Maringi Hogan with the disc for the pull for Waikato. Great long throw, a Hamatron favourite, a youth national favourite as well. But it's fielded comfortably by the Honey Badgers, who are able to work up the disc to find Raab on the near sideline. Massive fake to shift that defense. We can see that the Waikato side are using a zone defense there, looking to target space that the Canterbury players might want to attack rather than necessarily sticking to the players themselves.
We're seeing some lovely swinging amongst the handlers here behind that zone, but not much developing downfield. Oh, speak of the devil, there it is.
Great work for the Canterbury side, threading that disc through that zone to find Raab again. And a nice wide swing. It's a little bit low, but it's still kept off the grass. Trying to use those fakes to... Great work towing that disc in on the far sideline by Besling. A nice comfortable reset of the disc. So the players are forced to move the disc back and forwards because the defense are able to count to 10. So they're putting a stall on the player with the disc. So they count 10 seconds out, similar to a shot clock in basketball. And if the disc isn't released before the last number is called out, that's an automatic turnover. So big fakes and a nice thread through to a static receiver in the end zone. Great work by Canterbury to put themselves on the board. That's Bryn Douglas with the assist. A great laser beam straight through the middle.
That's the kind of patience you want to see to break through a zone. You know, you can swing the disc back and forth and back and forth and back and forth for that whole point, and you're just waiting for the moment to take that shot. It takes a lot of patience, a lot of precision, and that's exactly what we saw in that goal.
Absolutely key. So that's one of the biggest things about working against a zone, particularly a zone of the structure that the Waikato side are using. So they're running a 2-3-2 zone defense. They've got 2 players up the front trying to create a wall that the zone offense has to work around. And working around a zone is honestly one of the best ways to try and break it. The main thing, by forcing the disc back and forth across the field, the disc can move a lot faster than the players, so the players have to hustle. They really have to burn a lot of energy trying to put that defense in place, trying to cover those passes up and down the field as opposed to across it. And eventually, enough of those passes get strung together, the zone starts to slow down as the legs start to fail, and that's when you have those opportunities to really chip through. Honey Badgers with the pull to come out on defense, hoping for a break of their own. They're fortunate enough to be working downwind this time, so that's going to put a bit more pressure on the Waikato offense. They want to bring the game back on serve. If they can get a break here, they'll be back to 2-2, but it will be a hard slog for them to then claw back an advantage if they manage this. Waikato with a great opportunity. If they can get the hold here and widen that gap back up to 2 points, it takes a little bit of the pressure off them, which is exactly what they want. They want that sort of comfortable start to the match. They've got the home team advantage. And the ready signal from both teams. Tom Warden puts the pull up, fades back in towards the center. Blake Hanna and Alex Dio working the disc. A bit of a strange rip. Comes off the hands of Cowley. Exactly what the Canterbury side want. Warden on the near sideline.
Lovely execution of that nice quick turn here. When you have any sort of incompleted pass as the offensive side, that's automatically a turnover. And the speed at which the newly offensive team can get their feet under them is going to determine how effective they are in the offensive play. We can see that Canterbury had a nice quick turn. This one's looking a bit slower to start, getting our players right in position, and the disc is in.
Dio trying to cut into the center field to give Hannah an option for the reset, keep that stall low.
Oh, lovely bid by defense there.
But Kapor keeps the disc, finds Hogan anyway. Oh, and a call was made. Looks to be accepted. So you'll notice that you don't see any referees on the field. Ultimate is a self-officiated sport. Players take it upon themselves to learn the rules and to make calls and resolve them on the field during play. So it being a non-contact sport, a foul was called. Both sides, both parties to that foul accepted that it did occur. And so play resumes as though the foul had not occurred. Kapor with a great undercut, a huge fake to shift the defense. He's wide open. There's a lot of opportunity to work the disc, but instead finds center field. Hogan with a great cut, barely marked. Dio ignores it, puts a long one up for Kapor with a big grab just outside the end zone. Nice and floaty. Finds Walter Walmsley for the score as Waikato go back up by 2. 3-1 in the second match of our first day of the New Zealand Tertiary Ultimate Championships. Now, Kisa, you've got a lot more Ultimate experience than I do. I spend most of my time at tournaments sitting on the sideline doing this. Can you give me a breakdown of what is working for Waikato at the moment? What is helping them generate these turns and generating this offensive pressure that's put them up by 2 so early in the game?
I think throughout New Zealand, Hamilton has a reputation for being a little bit scrappy when they come to play. I think that really benefits the team in terms of their flexibility. You know, they come out with these structures, but they aren't sticking to them religiously. They're able to change things up on the fly. And like we just saw in this goal, the intended receiver did not come anywhere close to the disc, but luckily someone else was there. We picked it up. We got the goal. Same number of points, regardless of if the intended person catches it or not. We do see a lot of really nice, tight defense coming from Canterbury, but Hamilton doesn't seem that phased from it. I think their confidence in the game and their confidence in themselves and their teammates is really what's causing them to play so smoothly in the face of what might otherwise be really intimidating defense.
Yeah, I could not agree more. I think that's one of the biggest things about Hamilton is that, particularly at the club level, you maybe don't see the most clinical Ultimate that you might see from some Auckland sides and Wellington teams. The sort of essence of play, I think, is more drilled than the specific technical elements. But it clearly seems to be working for them. They've come together as a team there. They're doing a really great job trying to pressure this Canterbury side. But Canterbury keep possession, despite the zone defense that we're seeing from the Waikato team. Great work up that near far sideline, rather. Trying to use the width of the field, but the zone is shutting a lot of it down. They managed to thread through anyway. Opportunities to use the width, but they push back into that crowded space. Raab with the disc now to Warden.
Oh, lovely thread through there. Nothing downfield for her. Looks to swing. Very smart decision. Still stuck on the sideline, though. Let's see if they'll try to center it. Zone's putting a lot of pressure, trying to avoid that center. Oh, risky throw.
Raab takes the skies to get it. But Tavish fumbles at the last second.
That is a turnover.
Kent Wilcock to bring the disc. Sends a big rip. It's a little bit flat. Doesn't have as much float as you'd like, but Kieran McDonald is able to field that comfortably.
It's a forgiving wind when you're throwing in that direction.
Marcus Ridgway on the near sideline. Getting close to the red zone, maybe about 15 to 20 meters. A little bit of miscommunication there. Generates a turn to give Canterbury the opportunity to go back the other way.
Looks like they're going to set the zone again on defense.
It's putting a lot of pressure. It's forcing Canterbury to go back and forth the field, trying to chip away, finding holes. A great bid, trying to keep it alive, but the disc is called down. So Waikato with another opportunity. Working that far sideline now. Canterbury clogging the space, seeing that throwing lane and stepping right in the middle. Great defense there. Rubb wanted to put a long one up. Instead, forced to work to the far sideline. Chipping away.
There's some lovely fast handler movement in this space. Although it does come with its risks. Sometimes threading the needle does not work out. Oh, there's been a call on the field.
It's an injury call.
Oh, it looks like a dislocated shoulder. They're trying to put it back into place. That's a painful thing to happen on the field. Whenever there's an injury call on the field, there's two different outcomes. If the injury is caused by the player, you know, tripping over their own feet or something like that, you can call the injury, you can have the stoppage, but you are required to take a sub. If the other side causes your injury, you can stay on the field. If you're meant to take a sub and you don't, your team actually gets charged a timeout. Which is hopefully to discourage people from, I don't know, maybe being a bit gumpy on the field.
or perhaps unnecessarily calling injuries for unnecessary stoppages.
More likely, yes.
Benefit of the doubt.
All right, the injured player is on the sideline and play is back in action. We have subbed out the injured player. Whoever came on to take his place has taken on his role in the offense and his positioning on the field.
Isaiah Kapoor finds Blake Hanna on the near sideline with a great big upline cut.
Lovely option, great backup there, but perhaps afraid of the collision, we pulled out a little at the last second.
Absolutely. Kapoor had a great line for it, but it was a little overthrown. Cowley was looking to pick that one up. And great layout bid, but the disc just came off the fingertips. Bryn Douglas to initiate the offense for the Canterbury Honey Badgers. And a fumble puts the disc right on the edge, right on the doorstep for Waikato to bring it a 3-point lead. Puts a hammer up. A high stall, maybe not ideal option, but when the player's free, it's Keita Perry with the score to take us to 4-1. A huge lead here for the Waikato side.
Looks like Canterbury is called a timeout. A very smart, strategic move. When the other team starts to get a little bit of momentum, they can run away with the score like we've seen in the last few points here. So I reckon UC Honey Badgers is looking to reset themselves mentally, come up with a plan. They've got a downwind point coming, so that's a really big benefit for them.
Yep. And as far as timeouts go, it's a great opportunity for Waikato to consolidate the things that have been working for them. A few of their turns have come from happening to be in the right place at the right time, but a lot of them have come from forcing errors. So we will see how the game continues to resolve in just a moment.
Always on the move, you can keep up to date with LTTV on all of our social media channels.
And then I'll just call us
like,
back.
follow, subscribe, share us with a friend, or send us a message just to say hey. Thank you for supporting us in our mission to grow Ultimate.
I can't hear myself. Yeah. Sweet. We're doing great.
Talking about the right kind of stuff?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, and we are back, just hoping to close out the timeout and bring us back to play. Just a few more seconds as these teams consolidate their strategies moving into the rest of the first half of this game to 13. Waikato up by 3, an impressive effort from them so far against the University of Canterbury Ultimate Club Honey Badgers. Historically, a very, very strong team in the tertiary ultimate space. Waikato, having picked up quite a few players, as a lot of the youth development that's happened in the region is paying dividends in the tertiary space as some of those players are coming of age and enrolling in tertiary study, which is fantastic to see. Huge amount of youth development happens in Hamilton in particular, courtesy of Hamilton Ultimate, the local club here. We can see that the University of Canterbury, the UC Honey Badgers, obviously bringing a lot of energy as they break the timeout, which is what they're going to need as they start to overcome the force of the mighty Waikato, currently 3 points up. Honey Badgers are going to be working downwind on offense. Now, Kisa, what if you were the coach for the UC Honey Badgers, what kind of suggestions would you make to them based on you've seen how the Waikato defense is working and where it's pressuring them? What sort of tips would you give to the UC Honey Badgers to try and help them in this point to guarantee that score?
I'm so glad you asked. What I would love to see here from the Honey Badgers is a pull play where you have kind of a premeditated strategy. They've had all this timeout time to sort themselves. They know generally what kind of defense is coming. We've been seeing the 2-3-2 pretty consistently from Waikato. So if they're a clever Badger, they're going to be calling some sort of play that will cut through the zone in a way that benefits them. So what I mean by that is we've got the 2-3-2 zone. Waikato knows what they're taking away. UC knows what Waikato wants to take away. So if they're smart, they're going to do whatever is being given to them. So where are the holes in the zone? Where is the disc going to be able to break through? Can they move it quickly enough to put the zone off balance?
Absolutely. And that is one of the things to remember on offense is that the defense is limited by what they're able to take away. All the effort in the world does not allow you to be in two places at once. So if Canterbury recognize that, like they have done here, they've seen a hole through that zone, they were able to work all the way along the sideline. Long shot, goes up, doesn't come away with it.
Excellent option taking there. That was exactly the right throw.
Becky Farr, a little bit of a stumble into a layout bid just short of the disc, but as you say, Kisa, exactly right. They managed to chip through that zone, and there was all this wide open space on the near sideline that gave them a clean shot. Maybe he could have held that a little bit. As we've talked about, the wind coming from left to right is going to cause that disc to go a little bit faster, and maybe not correcting for that could have generated that turnover.
We see Waikato setting up in a horizontal stack. This is like the vert stack we saw earlier, space on the left and right, but now the space is in the under and the deep. I think the wind took that one, floating off to the side.
Yeah, so Grace Jourdain with a lovely deep cut, but not able to pick up the disc as it starts to fade towards the far sideline.
This is dangerous territory for the Badgers. They are right on their own end zone. If you heard me gasp just then, it's because I thought a Callahan was coming, which is like an own goal in Ultimate. It is such a shame when you're the thrower on those. I speak from experience here. But luckily for Canterbury, they are able to maintain possession.
We are seeing that Waikato zone start to slow down a little bit, which is giving the Canterbury side a little bit more room to try and work the disc. They've got a little bit more time without that pressure to try and move the disc, which is exactly what they need.
It's looking a little challenging in the downfield. Speaking as a handler, I'd be looking for options after the swing. The swing is all good. That's what we're trying to do to get the zone defense off balance, to open up those gaps, to get more yards or meters, I suppose, down the field.
Exactly like that throw just across the field to Luke Raab, number 0 for the Canterbury side. But as you say, Kisa, what happens next?
Yeah, lovely throw to Ocean Samard. She was able to come with an undercut towards the disc and really kick-started this motion all the way down the field.
So we could see there that with the great timing exhibited by the UC Honey Badgers, they were able to have two players open and just dribble the disc up the field really quickly without any pressure from the defense. Then work all the way back to the near sideline for a great score. Adele Besling putting a point on the board for the UC Honey Badgers, taking us to 4-2, still in favor of Waikato. But at only 26 minutes into our 75-minute game, it is still anybody's option as to who walks away with the win. And it looks like we've had another timeout called, possibly this time by Waikato.
I wonder if that tidy offense has got Waikato shaking in their boots a little bit.
Absolutely. They've come down with a zone that was consistently applying a lot of pressure. It managed to generate turns for them that they were able to convert into scores, but as we discussed during the previous timeout, what would you change if you were the Honey Badgers? How would you adapt your offense to get around it? We saw that execute almost flawlessly, and now that's the question for Waikato. Is our zone going to work? And the absolute worst situation you can be in is one where you have to ask if you need to change something on the fly on defense. Particularly with regards to a zone defense, it's 7 players working together. You're not looking to exploit individual matchups on defense. You're trying to work as a team to generate a turn, regardless of whether or not you've got a player in the deep space who's eating up those high balls.
The reason why it's so difficult to change things on the fly in zone is because of the structured play that you've been talking about. You know, each player has their role on the field. You're not covering a person, you're covering a space. So am I trying to make sure I get a quick mark on and get that stall count started? Am I trying to make sure I'm taking away the deepest player? And so in order for a defense like that to work, you have to have really strong communication. Everyone needs to be really clear on what their role is, and you have to be able to gel together really nicely. So if Waikato is looking to change their zone look, that could open up more opportunities for Canterbury if they're not sure they're on the same page with their own teammates. But we'll see what happens in the next point.
Absolutely, and it's often a coin flip, because if you've run a certain zone structure for a few points in a row and it's working, and you have your opposition find a way to chip through it, if they're expecting that zone, then even an imperfect adjustment might be enough to throw off the momentum that they have created. They might think, okay, here's the structure we need to work to get through this 2-3-2 zone. When you bring down a cup, when you bring down an arrowhead, a different zone structure, all of a sudden it becomes a game of rock, paper, scissors as to an arms race almost between the offense and defense as to what's the best thing to be doing on the field right now.
In terms of arms race, I'm going to say Canterbury's ahead. Got a lot of good singlets on that line. Not so many from Waikato. But Hamilton usually does have the lead on nice slick haircuts. We can see on the sideline a few skullets representing the Waikato region.
And that really is the thing. Aside from being ultimate, it is a battle of aesthetics here today, as a Waikato out in red and the University of Canterbury Ultimate Club Honey Badgers in white to come out on defense against the Waikato side. And now we're going to get to the opportunity to see what a more structured offense looks like from the Waikato side, as most of their offensive work has come from generating turns on defense. A little bit of routine from the UC Honey Badgers, that little clap, and everyone giving the signal for readiness at once. Waiting for the response from the Waikato side. Waikato with an opportunity to work downwind, although the wind is changing a little bit, which, if they're not quick to adapt to it, could work in the favor of the defense. A lot of edge on that. It's going to roll and give them a few extra yards before it's touchdown. A little bit past halfway, so not a full field to get Waikato to work with, but
the wind is picking up, and that's a difficult throw. I think it was smart of her to roll it up the field, get a few extra meters without that interference from the wind. We're seeing a zone look from Canterbury. Looks like an arrowhead. In an arrowhead, what the defense wants is for the offense to throw side to side. We can see one person on the mark, 2 just behind, and 1 a bit behind them.
Hogan able to pop over the top of that zone, a necessary throw, even a little bit risky in this wind. But it's Dio and Wilcock back in the handler space now.
Maringi Hogan in the middle with a nice cut, but overthrown.
And that is exactly what the UC Honey Badgers are looking for. They're 15, maybe 20 meters away from their own end zone. It's not a long field to work, so even though the wind is working against them, they've still got the opportunity to put a long one up, if they can trust their receiver to bring it down. So great place for the UC Honey Badgers to be in.
Patience is key here. Right in front of the end zone, your instinct is to try to throw right for the goal and maybe not notice the defense as much as you may need to otherwise.
Cowley on the near sideline, trying to work with Hannah, developing into that cut, but the defensive switching from the UC Honey Badgers covers those long options and shuts down the reset.
That's that lovely tight defense coming again from Badgers.
And as you said before, Kisa, that tight defense from the Honey Badgers would pressure a lot of teams, and it looks like the momentum might be swinging the other way. The curse of the commentator, speaking too soon. But that tight defense is clearly putting pressure on the Waikato side. They're having to work a lot harder for this point than they have a lot of their previous ones. Great boxing there on defense from the Canterbury Honey Badgers. Just staying in front of him, preventing the Waikato player from getting a read on the desk and getting in a good position to jump clearly and take it. A little bit of a fumble, but it's a small price to pay to keep your team in the game. A worse position for the Honey Badgers, but nothing they can't handle as they've got a full field ahead of them. Working with the wind in their faces. Great coverage on defense from the Waikato side. A bid is not enough to generate a turn. It's Paige Hansen working the disc in that handler space. Nice, good undercuts. Sophie Hankin to the near sideline. Warden, big fake. Shifts the defense, puts a forehand out. It's fading away. A huge bid and not enough to keep it in the hands of the Canterbury Honey Badgers.
She does get that lovely badge of glory mud down the front, though, so that's something at least.
The one benefit of being the team that wears the light kit in a match like this, particularly when conditions haven't been great in the Waikato region over the last few days. There's been a lot of rain. We've got some pretty muddy fields, is that you get those little badges of honor. Oh, great attempt there. But Cowley's able to pick that disc up. Hannah puts up the big forehand. Kent Wilcock looking to read. Missed turn on that one. He lost sight of it. And the defense for the Honey Badgers. Harrison Leach is able to shut that one down. And we can see now that the Waikato side, they're sticking to a match defense, so they came down on offense. They probably didn't call a zone to transition to on turn, so they're going to try and exploit those matchups as best they can.
Looks like the disc got a little damaged in that kerfuffle, so we've traded it out for a new one. Hansen for the easy swing. Looking for the break side. Hugely open cutter, but that throw is just not on. Big upwind huck. Lovely shape on it received.
Adam Chung calls a timeout, a veteran move. So calling that timeout, recognizing that he's in a bad position relative to where the rest of his team is. He's only a few meters away from the end zone with the disc. But the problem is that his defense was right there and able to initiate that stall count straight away, which, considering that a player only has 10 seconds before they have to get rid of the disc or concede a turnover, with the rest of the team playing catch-up, it could eat as many as 4 or 5 seconds of that stall count, putting a lot of pressure on Adam Chung to let go of the disc before his team has to give it up. So
seems like a longer time than it actually is. The stall count in Ultimate Frisbee is 10. We have a lot of players that come from netball where they have a much shorter stall of 3. So we like to say, you know, you have 10 seconds, look at your options, see what's there. But if the thrower there was hoping for a little bit of help, he's going to need a few good seconds to get that cut set up so that his receiver is actually free. This was a really smart veteran move, not just to give himself some more time with the disc, but also to give the team a chance to strategize for an end zone play. So we'll likely see something structured coming out of this timeout from the Honey Badgers.
Absolutely. So that timeout, because the disc is considered dead during the purposes of the timeout, when it comes back in, it allows players to essentially set up rather than have to come in where they were when the timeout was called. So that timeout means play just reinitiates from where that disc is, which allows them to move all of their receivers into the end zone to set themselves up for a great score. But we will see how well that resolves when we come back with you after this short break.
How do you
We believe where you live shouldn't decide your destiny, and that any place can be a place of learning.
I did
so much of modern life has a handy home delivery option. Why not your education?
It's okay.
Maybe you'll start your degree in the same space you share with your whānau, or from that corner of the spare room that catches the most sun. Start your new what at the place
honestly,
where can be anywhere,
like,
online
the
or
short
on
version is, like,
campus.
pick 5 or
Massey,
6
New
players
Zealand's
who you
leading
know are getting
online
disc all the
university.
time.
Apply now
And
at
rely on that. Like, I know
massey.ac.nz.
87 is what? Oh, like while you're talking, I'm also scanning as well to be like, oh, 12, like 80, because what was it, 89 keeps getting it in for the handler set. And we are back. Just a little bit of sideline chatter here. Some really, really exciting play. Just highlighting a few of the great players that we're seeing on display here, like Paige Hansen, number 89, who's doing a huge amount of work in the Canterbury Honey Badgers offense. Now we're seeing as they come back out, so the offense get the opportunity to set themselves first. They've got 3 players back in their handler set. Adam Chung with the disc, number 87 for the Honey Badgers.
It appears to be an isolation play with number 89 Hansen as our ISO player. Normally, we pick people who are quick on their feet. Looks like she wasn't able to get open there, but we've got backup options.
Warden
Cheeky over the head pass. Lovely conversion from the Honey Badgers.
And that is the reason that we have been talking about Paige Hansen this game. Fantastic work in that isolation. She was the original isolation cutter. The pressure from Kent Wilcock on the mark was a little bit much. It was stopping that. So we see Warden here on the replay making a great upline cut for the disc. A quick early fake. The bid from the defense, giving that opportunity for the throw over the top for a great close. So we're going to see that again. Huge pressure. Looks for the upline. Great cut. Covered by Kieran McDonald with a little bit of a slip, actually, which might have given them that score. Paige Hansen with the grab, despite close coverage from Aria Cowley on the Waikato side. A great point for the Honey Badgers there. That timeout clearly did what it was supposed to do. The Honey Badgers to come out on defense now. The score 3-4, still in favor of Waikato, but it is only a 1-point game. So we're muted. The other thing, if you get the names wrong, doesn't matter. Just come back to it later. It's fine. Harrison Leach with the big pull, sending it all the way down downfield. But a little bit much. It gets carried out on that near sideline. Isaiah Kapoor gives the signal for the brick mark. So there's an X painted on the field about 18 meters in front of the end zone in the center field that the disc can be taken from if a pull does not land in bounds.
This gives the offensive team a bit of an advantage. If you were on defense, you think, why not just pull out the back every time? This is a little bit of a encouragement to keep it honest.
So Hannah working the disc to the far sideline. Finds Niwa. Back to Hannah. There's a lot of pressure from the Canterbury Honey Badgers. They're running a zone that looks like that same arrowhead, so they're trying to force the Waikato players to use the width. Kapoor manages to break through. A quick dish off to Hannah, who's being pressured by that zone. The disc is forced backwards. Niwa manages to chip through to find Katie Son. Kapoor in the midfield, a lot of pointing, trying to direct traffic a little bit while off disc, which is a skill in and of itself. They get a touch. Grace Jourdain nearly able to secure it. But that little tip from the Canterbury defense, just enough to generate the turn. Double checking to make sure that they haven't lost a second disc already. The Waikato defense a little bit slow to get into position, giving Canterbury offense a quick, nice pass back into their own offensive half. Great unmarked cut there.
Lots of quick movement from the Honey Badgers on this point. Let's see if they can keep their calm in the red zone.
Chung
Lovely break side pass.
Beautiful work by Chung to find Leach on the far sideline. A little laser beam down to the ground to find Callum Turner for the score, bringing us back on serve. 4-4. Great work by the Canterbury Honey Badgers. They will be proud of themselves after that one.
This is a key moment for Waikato, trying to figure out this arrowhead zone. So like we said, we have one person on the mark, two a bit farther back, taking away the central portion of the field, but allowing the swings to go off. And what Canterbury is doing is really capitalizing on that lateral movement, having taken away the upfield movement. And we see Waikato panicking a little bit. The thing about playing against a zone is it really is a mental game just as much as a physical game. You're swinging the disc back and forth over and over again. The zone defense is counting on that because the more throws you make, the more opportunities there are for errors. And it looks like Canterbury has been able to be patient enough. They're keeping their structure in the zone defense, and they're allowing Waikato to make those decisions that lead to turnovers.
Absolutely. And I think it's important to recognize as well on defense that the field is an additional defender. When you're looking at that arrowhead zone, as you try and push the disc to the widths of the field, to the sidelines, that sideline behaves as an additional defender. It's an opportunity for, you can do your best to throw it, but if you're just outside that line and a player's not able to get to it, it's going to be a turnover. And worse, it's going to be a turnover where the disc first crossed that sideline.
We've got Honey Badgers pulling upwind. We'll see if they maintain that arrowhead defense in the downwind. It can be a bit more difficult to run a zone defense when the offense has the wind at their back because those long throws become much more viable.
Warden with the pull. A lot of flow. You can hear from the sideline they're calling for that chase to come down early and stop that first pass, which they're able to do. Great pressure there. Stall count now being applied, starting to really stymie the University of Waikato defense, or offense rather. Niwa almost alone in the handler set. Kieran McDonald getting pushed backwards, finds Maringi Hogan, a great, confident handler, able to chip through to find Kent Wilcock.
You'll see a lot of defensive players up around the disc. This can be really intimidating for the offense. The key here is not to hold the disc for too long. That's going to allow the defense to get into position, into their set where they want to be. This quick movement back and forth between the handlers is going to generate more gaps in the defense and allow Waikato to move the disc up the field.
You can see it there. Hogan with a great big fake to pull the defense out of position and open a channel to chip that disc through to Kieran McDonald, who can work with her to gain maybe 15 meters up the field comfortably. It's one of the tougher things as well in the downfield space when your handlers are really working hard to move that defense to pressure the defense in the downfield, to make those cuts that are going to test the defense, that are going to open up those channels and maybe be aware that a throw could be coming your way. So we are seeing a little bit of sort of static or hesitant cutting from that downfield space while the handlers are doing a huge amount of work. But they need to be working that space to pressure the defense in order to open up scoring opportunities.
This zone set near the end zone is very much like a chess game in a lot of ways. You need to move the people around, move the pieces, create some false options, get the defense to go where you want them to go.
Walmsley to Hogan. Hogan in the midfield. Great close, finds Kieran McDonald. That's two former Hamilton Prime teammates using that well-established club connection to put that point on the board. A necessary point for the University of Waikato as they manage to claw back a lead, and they'll be coming down possibly with a zone defense again, this time the University of Canterbury Honey Badgers with a nice downwind point. We know a lot of their players. We've seen Adam Chung, we've seen Luke Rubb have some really long, nice throws, Harrison Leach as well. And so they've got a lot of strength in terms of putting the disc a great distance down the field. And they also have the advantage of having the wind at their back. It's going to push it just that little bit further. It might open things up just a little bit more for them. A game to 13. We will take a half time when the first team reaches 7 points, with only 1 point in it. This and the previous game between Victoria University of Wellington and Auckland University Ultimate Club Flood were amazingly hotly contested games. It's exactly the kind of Ultimate that we here at Ulti TV and supported by University Tertiary Support New Zealand want to bring you. But don't be afraid if you've got that little bit of extra money in your wallet at the end of the month. I know times are hard, but it's a small price to pay for the quality content that we're bringing to you. So head along to patreon.com/ultitv. Please support what we're doing if you like what you see. The more we can support our athletes from the sideline, the bigger the sport's going to become. We're going to make huge, huge things happen here, but we need your support.
All right, coming into the next point, we can see a lot of teammates on the field other than just the 7 on the line. The reason why we want to see this is so that the sideline is able to communicate with the players on the field throughout the point. It's super useful to have a second set of eyes, someone in your ear telling you where to go, what's coming, more information that you can then put into play on the field.
100%. That's one of the biggest things that we saw in the previous game as well with the Flood side. Their entire team took the line to make sure that everyone was on the same page and have that communication. That communication is doubly important when you're seeing a zone defense.
Well, it looks like we've lost a second disc in this game. Might have been the ambitious rolling pull from Waikato.
Created a lot of distance and a good opportunity, though. I want to say a small price to pay, but plastic doesn't come cheap. But as you were saying, Casey, you were talking about the importance of that communication, and particularly for a zone defense, it's super important because you can't just rely on knowing where your player is. You've got to know when players are attacking the space that you're supposed to be marking. A great layout bid to keep that alive. Number 26, Tavish Dempster. And Bryn Douglas, marked by Hannah. He's trying to get around the arms.
Oh, great bid to an underthrow. We've got a stoppage on the field. It looks like number 86 for Canterbury has got an injury.
Pearl Tulay, unfortunately. Well, great work taking the knee to try and keep that disc alive. But we're going to see an early sub so that we can resume play and just double check and make sure that she's okay.
Looks like on the replay there was a bit of contact with the player's head.
So we'll be back with you just shortly once this has been resolved. Okay. Yeah. Oh, you can highlights. Oh, sorry. Okay. Okay, so we are back as Pearl Tulay being escorted off the field following a delicate situation. We're just trying to resolve and make sure that everybody knows what happens when play resumes. And the question as to whether or not the injury affected Tulay's ability to field the disc.
The great thing about self-officiating the sport is if both teams can't agree on the outcome of this reception, the disc will go back to where it was before and will essentially replay the point.
Absolutely. So it's one of the benefits of a sport like Ultimate. We talk a lot about the spirit of the game, and the main thing I guess that drives that is a sense of wanting the game to be played in accordance with the rules. And if there's a miscommunication or a misunderstanding or something happens and players aren't able to agree, then it's like that point never happened.
It looks like Canterbury is signaling a turnover by flipping their hand back and forth, so I believe Waikato is going to come in with possession.
Okay. and the disc has been checked in. Match defense has been called. Looks like they're going to switch that up. So University of Canterbury players, they're looking to target those individual matchups again.
Risky play here on the sideline.
Hannah finds Kapor with a big rip. It's in the upwind. It's going to slow down, but not enough. Still miles ahead of the intended receiver. Keita Perry managed a great score earlier, hoping to put her second one on the board, but just a little bit much dip on that chip. Too much salsa on the Frisbee there. A bit much sauce on that toss. So Canterbury, again, great opportunity here for them to work back the other way. They've got the downwind advantage as they come out in a horizontal stack, so they're trying to keep all of that deep space in the downfield as open as possible. Really let those cuts travel up and down the length of the field in order to use as much of the length as possible. Becky Farr with a nice line drive. Puts one up. Bryn Douglas finds Tavish Dempster for a great score. And that takes us back on serve, 5-5. Really nice work there by the Canterbury Honey Badgers. We'll see that again. That was Becky Farr with a nice line drive up to Bryn Douglas. Huge forehand, miles of separation. Walked it through the end zone. Came in a little bit low on that near sideline. Great attempt by Isaiah Kapor to get the block there, but it doesn't come away. And Dempster walks off with the point. And now, as you said before, Kisa, we've got the entire Canterbury line, or at least a decent chunk of them, out on the field having a little bit of discussion. So they'll be coming down on defense, whether or not they play a match, play a zone defense, ensuring that they're able to communicate to their players. Like I always say, there are 3 lines that win a game of Ultimate: the O-line, the D-line, and the sideline. That chat is super important.
That's right, Blair, and we can see Canterbury players coming to the other sideline to support what appears to be a zone defense. If they were smart, they would continue that because it seems to be working against Waikato.
The only concern, I suppose, that the Canterbury side have with regards to playing a zone defense in a situation like this is that they need to cover that deep space. There are quite a few confident and established throwers, Alex Dio, Kent Wilcock, Maringi Hogan, who can put the disc quite long. And then with that downwind advantage, they can essentially let the disc go and let the wind do the rest of the jobs. They just need to make sure that they're able to cover that deep space for any threats from the Waikato side who are looking to travel deep.
And that's the gamble of a zone defense, right? You've got all this extra pressure up around the disc, but those people have to come from somewhere, and that's typically the deep. We are seeing a zone look from Canterbury again.
Kobe Niwa puts one low, finds Maringi Hogan. Unable to work the disc up early until Kent Wilcock comes to throw a bit of security there. Great work there. Number 45 for the Canterbury Honey Badgers, Theo McIntosh. Great touch for the defense there. Exactly what he was looking for. Sophie Hankin finds McIntosh, works back towards center field. Harrison Leach, but a run through by Cowley, number 14 to number 14. It's a shame they're not on the same team. And like I say, Kid Wilcock going to put one up long, but it's eaten up by the defense.
Bit of contact here. We see the foul call from the thrower on the defense. They're going to discuss and decide whether they agree on the contact or not. Yep, that's accepted. The defense agrees. We're seeing a bit more contact throughout the game. Looks like we're seeing a rise in intensity. Let's hope we can keep it clean out here.
Callum Turner. Working with Leach. Hansen again, not afraid to get dirty. She takes a knee to keep that disc in possession. Leach trying to signal Hankin to move upfield, take some yards. Has to shift back around the defense, finds Hansen. Great long put. Theo McIntosh right on the doorstep. And Paige Hansen, to the surprise of absolutely nobody here. Some great work. This is one of the things, and Casey, correct me if I'm wrong, but in mixed ultimate, the team with the stronger ladies is the one that walks away with the win.
That can be true. In my personal opinion, I think the team that utilizes the strengths of all players is the one that's going to walk away with the win. And sometimes you have stronger women than the other side, but sometimes you just know how to use your women properly. As a female matchup player, quite often you see teams that are playing men's ultimate with speed bumps, as we say. The women tend to be obstacles, but teams that can utilize the various abilities of their players are the ones who end up stronger on the whole.
Absolutely, that's a much more polite and diplomatic way of saying that that it is the team that uses the players they've got as best as possible that walks away with each point. And in this case, Canterbury was smart enough to recognize that they had that that advantage by having Paige Hansen on the field, who was able to strip away from her mark and get open for 1, 2, 3 touches in that last possession and close out with a score, which is exactly the kind of offense that I personally like to play. I don't really have the long throws, so I like to do a little bit more work. And Paige Hansen is a perfect example of what that can look like when it's executed well. That's amazing to see. So Canterbury Honey Badgers taking the lead for the first time in this game. 6-5, up by 1 point away from half. They're coming down on defense. Their zone has generated some turns. They've started to put the pressure back on the Waikato team. And the Waikato team are forced to work upwind for this point as well.
The wind has picked up a little over the last few points. It's a bit gustier, almost a crosswind, maybe coming in at a 45-degree angle from the back left side of your screen towards the front right side. That's definitely going to affect play as well, because now, in addition to having an upwind and a downwind side of the field, we also have a high sideline and a low sideline. So that pull has come to the downwind sideline. We call that the low side. Very difficult to play from there. Your range of throws is really cut off by the weather. We can see the defense, Canterbury, trying to trap them on that sideline. Smart move by the D there.
Some great work. Oh, there it is. That's the opportunity. A forced throw backwards. Kieran McDonald not able to get a hand to it in time. Adam Chung with the disc.
And a quick conversion for the Honey Badgers.
And that is going to be our half as the Honey Badgers go up by 2 over the Waikato, despite a strong showing in that first half. Some really great ultimate from both sides, great defensive pressure from both sides. Honey Badgers with the current lead. You do, in fact, love to see it. A game that swings in both directions. The pendulum of ultimate never stops. But for this, as we conclude the first half of the second game of the New Zealand Tertiary Ultimate Championships here in sunny Kirikiriroa, Hamilton. My name is Blair Monroe.
And I'm Kisa Valenti.
And we'll be back with you shortly.
Yeah. You've warmed up a lot as well. Thanks.
Too much? We were told over there that you guys were talking about patience. If you could pass that on and just like start throwing to other people, but who else? What do you mean? That's all she's on our team for a reason.
I think you should make the guy with the hat and the bun looks like Jonathan Nevercut, right? So make some like comparisons.
More like Jonathan Nevercut.
Yeah, you know, because he plays with like a cap and a man bun now. Make some like comparisons. Maybe stick some on you. I just want to like
I don't know.
Quite often has the advantage on plays like this because teams that are used to seeing more clinical offense would not expect to see that kind of throw. Perhaps as the defensive player, you're thinking to yourself, the main options are here, this is where people are normally going to go, and a push pass over the head is not something that you're thinking about.
Absolutely. One of the sayings you'll often hear on the sideline, particularly on maybe some of those more questionable options, is you can't block nonsense. That's probably a tidying up of that phrase. But that's the thing, is that if it isn't a major option, if it's not that forehand or backhand or a clean throw you expect to see in that situation, it's going to be a lot hard to pressure appropriately.
I hope we continue to see the same level of confidence coming from the Waikato team. A downwind pull, they've got a great chase over to the disc. We're seeing a zone look from their defense. A call's been made on the field. Just some nice, quick movement throughout the handlers.
Parkin tries to reset to far, but a turn happens. Hannah manages to get that disc through. Finds Hogan. Back to Hogan. Your grandparents are watching, Kent. Low throw. Online for the defender, but it still walks away with turn for the Canterbury Honey Badgers.
It's getting a bit gustier now. The Canterbury offense is going to have to take that into account as well as all the other things going on the field. Just getting a bit stuck. We've got some good offensive positioning in the backfield, but not much in the downfield, and we have another stoppage on the field. Violation called. There's a gender mismatch coming out after half.
So, as you say, a gender mismatch. So the Canterbury Honey Badgers have 4 ladies on the field. The Waikato team have 4 gentlemen, and the team that makes the team who's in the right can choose to accept play, I believe, and continue, or they can, I believe it might be a re-pull rather than just swapping one of those players out. We'll see how this resolves. So it looks like they're going to try and replace one of the Waikato players with a lady.
Both teams have signaled they're happy with the resolution, and the disc is back in play.
Rob on the near sideline finds Parkin, puts a blade up, falls away, giving the Waikato side an opportunity to bring it back to a tied game. Kent Wilcock with a nice line drive, finds Hannah.
Nice pressure around the disc from Canterbury. And a D from Ocean Samard.
Great work. They could see that upline cut developing. Hogan was looking to push upline and take that disc near the far sideline, but the defense was able to adapt and shut that one down early. A miscommunication, a slippage right on the doorstep. Hogan tries to get it to McDonald again, but Parkin's able to put the pressure on. We're going back the other way. Canterbury on offense now.
There's been a few turns on this point, which can lend itself to a bit more frantic play. I think the team that manages to keep a cool head here is going to be the one that retains possession to the end of the point.
Yeah, as those points start to drag on with a lot of those mental switches back between offense and defense, Barnes with the disc now. It adds a lot of cumulative fatigue for the players on the field. On defense, having to adapt to everything, it takes a lot out of you, and so having to switch constantly back between offense and defense, make that mentality change while keeping your body moving, is asking a lot of our players. Becky Farr on the far sideline, signaling for a double team. So players need to be actively marking a player if they want to be within 3 meters of the player on the disc. But that hooted signifies our soft cap, so we will conclude this point. A great touch
Fingertip
there.
D from Hogan.
So good to watch. Looking at that, just impressive awareness and getting into position. Waikato needing to close this point out. If they close this point out, it's going to be a game to 8. But there's trying that quick break. It goes through the hands of Wilcox. So we're back on defense for Waikato. Canterbury hoping to make it a game to 9.
Dempster with the disc threading the needle to Ocean. Smart.
To find Parkin. Very close to the doorstep right now in the red zone. Wide swing to Rub to find Farr. She's got the throw. She just needs the receiver.
Lovely smart swinging from the offense here. Defensive zone is trying to keep up.
Parkin trying to pressure that corner just to create an option. Rubs there, makes that same cut. Great score. We go 8-6. It is a game to 9. University of Canterbury Honey Badgers to come out on defense. Our soft cap is already gone. The score currently 8-6. We add 1 to the highest after the conclusion of that point. It is a race to 9. Waikato need an offensive hold and 2 back-to-back breaks if they want to win. University of Canterbury only need to score 1 more point. And it looks like they've called a timeout just before this final point. Again, it's as I just said, it is a crucial point, so both teams need to consolidate. They need to recognize exactly what it is they need to do in order for the game to swing in their direction. We will be back with you very shortly for the conclusion of this thrilling match between the University of Canterbury Honey Badgers and the University of Waikato.
I understand. I'm going to get out of it. You're in.
Okay, looks like the timeout has broken on the Canterbury Honey Badgers side, so we've got their 7 players, possibly their A-line, the players that they have chosen to come down heavy on defense and really apply the pressure to generate that turn and walk away with a win for this game.
You can see that Canterbury is keen to get back on the field. Waikato is still discussing in their timeout. This is a strategic move from Waikato. They're trying to put a break in the momentum that the Honey Badgers have built up, give themselves a bit more space to reset, communicate what we're doing on the next point, because they will come down on offense, and it is absolutely critical for Waikato to maintain possession of this disc. Any mistake could lead to the end of the game for them.
And so this is a crucial point. The wind looking to settle down just a little bit to take us away for what could be the last point of the game. That's what the University of Canterbury Honey Badgers are looking for. It is not what Waikato need. But we see Becky Farr with a great pull. The wind at her back. A little bit of bounce, and Kent Wilcox not able to get it, which gives the defense an opportunity to get in and shut down that first pass. Kira McDonald working with Kent Wilcox. Finds Aria Cowley. Big fake shifting the defense. Kent Wilcox. We're seeing a 4-player cup now from the University of Canterbury defense. Adam Chung with a huge bid to get that. Puts a big shot up. Chung is unmarked. Great point. There it is. That's our game. Bookends for that man.
What a way to close it out for the Honey Badgers.
Such a fantastic finish for that game. 9-6 over the University of Waikato. That 4-person cup applying a huge amount of pressure, forcing the disc back towards the sideline as they look to reset to try and bring it back towards the center field. Chung with a huge dive, and he's able to immediately turn that into a deep downfield cut that we're seeing again now. Miles of separation. A beautiful way to finish a beautiful, hotly contested game. A huge thank you to Ultim, University Tertiary Sport New Zealand, and the team here at Ulti TV. My name is Blair Monroe.
I'm Kisa Valenti.
And this is the the Tertiary Ultimate Championships in New Zealand in Kirikiriroa, Hamilton. Thank you very much for watching. We'll be back with the next game shortly.
Multi.tv.